Hello, my name is Glenda from Beautiful Soaps by Glenda, and in this video I want to show you how I made a soap mold, and things I learned while making it. It all started with cutting the wood, and I had my husband help me with this. He is using a miter saw. This is an inexpensive one. However, at the hardware place where you could buy wood, they can also cut them for you if you live in the States. These are the pieces that I will be working with: a base, two side walls, and two end pieces. And I'm going to be making this mold for a silicone liner from Nurture Soap. So I have put the liner on top of the base, and then I have put the side walls next to it to see how it's going to fit together. And I'm marking with a pencil the spot where the liner will be and the lines where the wood pieces, which will be the walls, and the end pieces will be. Then I will use wood glue, any brand will do, to attach these pieces of wood to the base. This is going to make the following steps easier. And after putting an amount inside the lines that I drew earlier, I'm going to put the side wall on it, and I'm trying to line it up with the lines that I had drew before. It's kind of hard to see them on the video, but I can see them, and I'm adjusting the pieces based on that. I also had to clean up some excess glue that was coming out of the bottom. I think it's easier to clean it up while still wet rather than wait for it to be dry. Initially, I was going to put a weight on top to create pressure as the glue dried, because I've seen people do this when they're working with wood. However, the weight that I had was not sitting even on it, and it was actually moving the wood pieces. So instead, what I decided to do is that I glue one of the end pieces, because I thought it will help the remaining walls stay in place, and then I flipped the whole thing over to let it dry upside down. The following day, the glue had dried, so I was ready to move on to the next step, which is to add the screws that will attach all of it together. First, I need to drill some guides. These are the screws that I will be using. They're drywall screws, but ideally you want to be using wood screws. I'm going to find a drill bite that matches in size to the screw to make the guide. From what I understand, you need to create a hole that will guide the screw to avoid having the wood split if you didn't do it. I should clarify that I'm not a carpenter or a woodworker at all, so that's my disclaimer. I've started by drilling the hole guides in the corners, and I'm drilling both through the base and also through the wood piece on the bottom, which is the end piece and also the wall. And this is why it was helpful to glue the wood pieces together the day before, because now I'm drilling one hole that goes through both pieces of wood, and I don't have to worry about aligning holes like I did for the loft splitter that I did before. After drilling two additional holes on the opposite side, I'm going to put the screws in. On the side of the mold where I have an end piece glued, I'm going to add a screw as well to secure it. So I will also be drilling the guide for it right now. What I will do different next time that I'm making a mold will be to make sure that the screw heads are flush with the wood. So what I will suggest you do is that you drill a bigger hole at the very top of the guide hole that you have made, and this larger hole should match the head of the screw that you're using. That way it will be flush with the base, and the mold will sit more evenly on your working surface. I'm going to start adding some screws now just to keep this secured, and when I do it, I don't put the screws all the way in. At first I just put them like halfway through, and then once I have all 4 put in, I will finish tightening them. And I'm not really sure if this is important or not. I just do it because that's usually the instructions I found when putting together furniture. You know, like the one from IKEA or other places, they usually say not to tighten the first screw all the way in, but just to do it gradually. Having secured my 4 corners with screws, I'm going to add the additional guide holes for the remaining screws, which will be 2 in the middle on each side and 2 more for the end pieces to attach them to the walls. Now I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the remaining end piece. These are the options that I had for the end piece. One was to just leave it loose like that, and whenever I was going to use the mold to put it in, and then in case I couldn't remove my soap from the mold, that will give me a way to pull it out more easily. I did not want to attach it to the mold permanently in case in the future when I use the mold I needed to get the soap out, and this will be my only way out to do it without damaging the soap. In the end, what I did is that I added a screw on top to make it removable. However, it's really not removable because I didn't get the right kind of screw to do that. I think I should have gotten a rod that was long enough to go through all the pieces of wood and then attach some butterfly nuts to make it removable. Instead, I added a screw that I don't think would come out without difficulty. But so far, I have not had a need to remove it. The soap has come out of the mold easily and it has not been an issue. First, I had to drill a hole that was big enough for the screw to go through. This needs to be larger than a guide hole because the screw has to go in and out of this easily. Then I had to do the same thing on the end piece, and this meant that I needed to ensure that the hole went straight and I didn't have anything skew. To do that, what I did is that I measured the spot where it was on one side and I tried to drill as straight as I could, probably halfway through, and then I went to the opposite side. I measured where the hole was or what it needed to be, and I started drilling from the opposite side, hoping that somewhere in the middle the tunnel will meet. And it worked. So next, what was left was to create a hole on the wall that is going to be holding it, and after that I just inserted the screw in. Now the longest screw that I could find that was long enough to go through all of these layers of wood did not have threading all throughout, and it didn't have also on the head, it didn't have anything for a screwdriver to work, so I actually had to use a plastic hammer to make sure it went in. But other than that, the mold has worked out great and I've used it in a couple of soaps already. I will link below the blog post which will have more information with supplies, measurements, and tools that I used. Thank you for joining me and I hope to see you next week. Bye.